But beyond the familiar all-seeing eye, Wallace saw in one of the mottos a reflection of his president's administration.
Henry Wallace felt it was of some value that the Novus Ordo Seclorum meant the new order of the ages, meaning the New Deal. And so he went to President Roosevelt and asked that they adopt it.
The banks closed. President Roosevelt taking financial measures against the Depression. Social Security founded as he instituted a series of New Deal reforms.
The New Deal was the name given to a series of programs introduced by President Roosevelt during the Great Depression, with the aim of social reform and stimulating economic recovery.
And confidence is growing on every side.
Wallace saw the meaning of it, could easily interpret it because he was a member of a secret society. Goes to FDR and says, hey, look at this. I mean, this tells the story of who we are and what we're doing and what we should be doing in the future.
Having discovered the reverse of the Great Seal had never been used, Wallace suggested to Roosevelt that they put it on a coin. In fact, Roosevelt decided instead that both sides of the Great Seal should be put on the $1 bill.
It's interesting that President Roosevelt personally approved the design. Roosevelt often had influence on the final design of projects, whether money or stamps or architecture, and in this case he organically applied the version and had
Are the conspiracy theorists right this time about the power of the Masons?
Franklin Delano Roosevelt and Henry Wallace are two of the most prominent Masons members in the United States. Roosevelt is one of our 14 presidents that were members of the Masonic fraternity.
You really do have what you could call a conspiracy on the Great Seals that's found on the back of the $1 bill. And they did believe that this was Masonic.
So despite being at the root of so much dispute, the symbolism hidden on the unused reverse of the Great Seal made it onto the $1 bill through the actions of Henry Wallace, one of the most powerful Freemasons of all time, the 32nd President of the United States, Franklin Delano Roosevelt. Conspiracy theorists believe it is a covert declaration of intent from the Freemasons.
And they don't want you to know what those symbols are. They're not going to make it public because it's a conspiracy. The goal of the Masons is to lead the world into the New World Order. The American people, in fact, the people of the world will never be given a chance to vote on this or to decide. We are going to get the New World Order without vote, without decision by us. And so we've got to keep it secret.
They believe the Freemasons among the Founding Fathers were concealing a message in the Great Seal, and it was one that was seen and understood by Wallace and Roosevelt. But Freemasons deny any malicious intent.
For whatever reason, they may have thought it as an appropriate symbol of God. That's not a bad idea to remind the citizens that God oversees everything they do when they pull out the $1 bill.
Certainly, while historians agree that the Freemasons did play a central role in the birth of America, and have continued to hold positions of power ever since, with 14 known Masonic presidents, they find no evidence of the plot for world domination.
The anti-Masonic ideas that come about, especially from the 1770s onwards, are put about by fundamental Christians, by people who believe that these people were intrinsically anti-Christian, when actually most of them were very good Christians indeed, and would have thought of nothing more disturbing than actually being called, heretics or blasphemers. And I think that a lot of this has got to do with that fear of the unknown, if you like.
And the images on the back of the $1 bill are there because the Founding Fathers successfully managed to create a lasting symbol that represented the United States to the rest of the world.
The design of the Great Seal has stood the test of time because it was a good piece of design. It worked. If it wasn't, they would have changed it, and they haven't. It personified what America was in the middle of the 18th century, and it has personified what America is today. So it works. It's iconic. You've got the $1 bill, and you've got Camel cigarettes, and you've got Coca-Cola, and you've got America.
that the beware his use of language, because that alone will hypnotize you. No matter how strong you are, you'll be pulled into his web.
Do not let him speak. He will put a spell on us.
I just loved that. I thought that was fantastic. You know, very powerful image. They did bring it up a little bit in the movie, but this whole idea of the seduction of a man's voice and the power of charisma, you know, and the ability, and of course the media uses this a great deal. And you have this ties back into the whole concept of the god Mercury. If anyone's seen the symbolism of Hermes and Mercury, and the earlier version of Hermes god Ogma from the Celtic tradition, and even Herne being the origin of the word Herm or Hermes. It's all Irish Druidic. Those gods were the gods of language. Those gods were the gods of words. Those gods were the gods of communication. With the understanding that communication by words is a phenomenally powerful and important weapon of both the good and the bad side. Interesting that Ogma, the Celtic god, his other two traits was strength. They taught symbolically like this. Okay, so Ogma is the god of language, but he's also the god of strength. Yes, because language is strength. Language is a form of power. Man who knows how to manipulate language and words is strong. What was his title, his name? They call him the Honey Mouth. Ogma the Honey Mouth, because, you know, and I guess there's even Scandinavian, I think Loki had the power of that, almost the hypnotic, you know, ability with words.
Art is dark magic, the science of manipulating symbols and mental images to achieve changes in consciousness. The very language of magic seems to be talking as much about writing or art as it is about supernatural events. A grimoire, for example, the Book of Spells, is simply a fancy way of saying grammar. Indeed, to cast a spell is simply to spell, to manipulate words, to change people's consciousness. And I believe that this is why an artist or writer is the closest thing in the contemporary world that you can likely see to
when you hear these talismanic words like control, security, stronger America, strength, realize that they're talismanic words that are being used against you. They're seduction words, trying to get you to accept this because you don't have that. Well, you've been raped of that. The people who are selling you one story here have actually taken away the very thing that you needed, that were in your psyche to be.
I am continuing and I am increasing the search for every possible path to peace.
We maintain our strength in order to deter and defend against aggression, to preserve freedom and peace. No one, friend or foe, should doubt our desire for peace. The United States peace. We strive for peace.
I pledged in my campaign for the presidency to end the war. Way to win peace. I respect your ideals. I share your peace. I want peace. Much as you do.
Could come in the form Saddam Hussein recently sold significant quantities of uranium from Africa.
There is no doubt that Saddam Hussein now has weapons of mass destruction. Weapons of mass destruction.
Botulinum, VX, sarin, nerve agent.
Iraq and Al-Qaeda.
Iraq and Al-Qaeda.
Terrorism, cyber attacks,
Nuclear program.
biological weapons, cruise missiles, ballistic missiles.
Chemical and biological weapons.
Iraq has weapons of mass destruction.
President Bush has said Iraq has weapons of mass destruction. Tony Blair has said Iraq has weapons of mass destruction. Donald Rumsfeld has said Iraq has weapons of mass destruction. Richard Butler has said they do. The United Nations has said they do. The experts have said they do. Iraq says they don't. You can choose who you want to believe.
The sources that have deceived us so constantly, don't deserve trust. And to the extent that we give trust, we set ourselves up to be scammed again and again.
There are reports that there is no evidence of a direct link between Baghdad and some of these terrorist organizations.
There are known knowns. There are things we know we know. We also know there are known unknowns. That is to say, we know there are some things we do not know. But there are also unknown unknowns. The ones we don't know, we don't know.
I will build new partnerships to defeat the threats of the 21st century. Terrorism and nuclear proliferation, poverty and genocide, climate change and disease. And I will restore our moral standing so that America is once again that last best hope for all who are called to the cause of freedom, who long for lives of peace, and who yearn for a better future.
And this is used endlessly in the media by the drip feed method.